Greetings, humans. This is Aramis from Archill Archives, and last week I did and completed the 100 Heads challenge. It took me 7 days because I wanted to do it as quickly as possible. The total drawing time was 9 hours, 14 minutes, and 23 seconds, and I did... Each head took me on average about 5 minutes because I wanted to keep them short, with the last 4 taking 10 minutes each because I wanted to put in more detail. I also used colored pencil because I wanted the smoothness of pencil with the permanence of pen, so I used colored pencil. And I think that's it for all the materials I use. It's artisanal colored pencils. So now let's get into what I thought about while I was doing the challenge, because I don't really like drawing faces. Just in general, I'm not a fan of portraits. I find them boring, especially drawing women, because they don't have a whole lot of different features. So I mainly did this challenge for the mileage. 100 heads really isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. It wasn't until I crossed about 500 figure drawings that I saw a significant improvement in my figures. So 100 really wasn't that much, and it only took me 7 days, and I watched YouTube videos and movies while I was doing it, so it didn't really feel too bad. And the first time I did this drawing, because this is actually the second time I'm doing this drawing, this challenge. The first time I did it was back when it just came out, I think 2 years ago. I think this challenge was started in 2019, and that was when I just started drawing. And I didn't really see much improvement over the 100 heads. Maybe I'll see improvement. I plan to have a second part to this video where I compare these heads to my older heads and both of those heads to the reference picture. That's a plan anyway. And then we'll see how much improvement I made, if I made any improvements at all. I like these short challenges because you could finish them relatively quickly, and they help finish sketchbooks. This sketchbook that I'm using has 120 pages, and I was starting to get tired of it. I wanted to start a new sketchbook with different paper, especially because this paper is a bit yellow, so all my colors look a bit off. And it's almost done. I am doing currently a 100 hands challenge just on my own to help finish out some more pages, and because I really need practice drawing hands. So you should see a video on that pretty soon. Yeah, so I just find drawing these faces boring because if you notice, a lot of them have the same facial expression. Their eyes are wide with their lips parted slightly, where they look kind of shocked but also slightly aroused. So I was very uncomfortable drawing a good deal of these faces. I also didn't find that the board had a lot of variety. I know a lot of people in their own videos talk about how there was a lot of variety in the board, but I actually thought there were a lot of the exact same facial expressions and the facial proportions. The noses especially were very different, and we had some weird sculptures and stuff, but for the most part, they were also serious, and it kind of felt like I was drawing the same face over and over and over again, especially when it came to the women, because women don't exactly have a lot of different facial features. It's mainly the hair that you could tell them apart. Or maybe I am just really bad with faces, which I'll admit. I'd probably pick the wrong person if I had to pick my parents out of a lineup. Maybe that's just me. I do think they came out pretty well overall, especially considering that it was only 5 minutes per head. I wish I could have gone in a bit darker with the shadows, but because it was 5 minutes per head and I was drawing with colored pencil on smooth paper, I couldn't really go in much darker. But because when I draw with charcoal, I tend to go really dark with the shadows, and I'm not afraid of going dark, it didn't really bother me. What did bother me is that there weren't really any people with scars or like weird facial expressions. I don't even see any smiles flipping through these pages. It's a lot of very serious people, and it's started to get really boring when you're drawing the same mouth shape all the time. If I had curated a board, which I do have my own board that I want to do some studies on, where I picked people making faces at the camera because it looked more interesting, so I might end up doing another challenge. Because I find it hard drawing facial expressions in my illustrations, so that might help as well. I still found myself getting bored a lot, and it really could be just because I've already drawn these heads, but I just think it's because I don't like drawing faces in general, and some of the faces are so bad that if you're looking at me drawing them, you could tell which one was my first head drawing for the day. Like number 73 was obviously the first drawing for the day, and because I did so much in a day. Okay, so let me tell you how many I did in a day. Day 1 I drew 10, day 2 I did 16, day 3 was 28, day 4 was 12, 5 was 15, 6 was 24, and then I did the last 4 on the 7th day, along with the 2 illustrations I did at the very end, because in addition to the filming, which was 9 hours, I also was drawing. I was drawing more, and I did those in 2 or 3 sittings. I don't like drawing heads, so I had to space them out a bit. And I drew all of them at my desk, which I don't like because the height is very weird for drawing, so it really hurt my wrist. And normally I draw for more than an hour a day. That would have been for definitely more than an hour a day. And those would have been like just regular drawing sessions for me, so I really noticed that I have a table with an angled back, and I use that a lot, and that really helps with shoulder and wrist pain. Which is also why I don't do a lot of sketching in the videos. I tend to just do line art because it's easier to see at an angle. So yeah. I just want to mention a few things I noticed in some others' videos. Like, they were complaining that the challenge was challenging, which, okay then, it's the point. Some people said it would cause burnout. I saw in some videos that they said they felt tired and drained after. I didn't. I finished it and I was like, yes, now I can draw other stuff, and I immediately went and drew other things. So I didn't feel burnout at all. If anything, I was so happy to finally be done with it. I do like how the pages came out. They're really colorful and nice. Another one is that they were saying that they didn't want to draw those kinds of faces because they don't see themselves ever drawing like old men, so why should they practice it? And like, whenever I hear people complain about that, I just think, you are going to start complaining that you're not improving, and this is precisely why. Let it never be said that Aramis couldn't fare over drawing things that I don't like. So yeah, a few of the videos, especially the comments below, were a bit annoying, but I knew why I was doing this challenge, and it was for mileage. This definitely, I wanted to get better at mapping the features to the faces. Because sometimes I draw eyes too wide or the mouth too low, and I wanted to work on that. I am not an amazing artist. I'm a relatively beginner artist, because I've only been drawing for about 2 or 3 years now. And when I was younger, I hated using guidelines. I couldn't understand why anybody would want to use guidelines. And now I use so many guidelines. And that's another thing I noticed in, especially the ones who did it digitally, they didn't use a whole lot of guidelines, so they spent a lot of time adjusting the face, and then they would say, oh, I spent like 30 minutes on this face because I couldn't get the proportions right, and I was watching it and thinking, it's because you're not using any guidelines. Now I love using guidelines. I use so many guidelines. I used even more. The looser and sketchier I got is the more guidelines I use. And some of the... At some points, I got really tired of drawing the faces, and I got much looser with my pencil strokes. And those were actually probably my favorite. The looser sketches where I just wanted to get the face onto the paper and I wasn't really taking it seriously. Those are the ones that I ended up liking. I'll point them out in the next video when I am comparing the drawings. A lot of the other people who did the drawings are better artists than me. They've been drawing their whole lives, while I only started as an adult. I have been out of high school for so long. I sound like an old person. But yet, I graduated high school at 16. That was like a lifetime ago. So, when you're seeing all these teenagers drawing and they're better than you, it doesn't do very good things for the ego. But then I have to remind myself that I only started about 3 years ago and these people were drawing their entire lives. I noticed on YouTube especially, there's not a lot of people like me who started later on, again, I make it sound like I'm really old, but most of them start as kids, and it's only when I was into my 20s that I decided to pick up a pencil and try drawing again. And it's a bit weirder, because when they talk about how they learned how to draw versus how I'm currently learning how to draw, we do two completely different methods. But one of the advantages to starting when you're older is that it's easier to be able to pick out what is a waste of your time and what isn't. With a lot of the younger artists, and they show you their old drawings, you'd see a lot of mistakes where they could have improved if they had spent more time studying this and this, and as an adult you're better able to make those decisions. So for instance, a kid wouldn't spend a month doing 500 figure drawings, so it would take them much longer to learn how to draw proper figures than an adult like me who would know, okay, this might be a better use of my time. And this is one of the challenges that I think is a better use of my time than copying anime. As much I do copy some drawings that I like just to see what works, but again, that's not something children would do. It just crossed my mind because I know a lot of people who started later and feel a bit intimidated because of all these great artists online who started when they were like 6 months old and they picked up a pencil, and then we're now figuring out that maybe this is something we want to put time and effort into. And a lot of the times, especially earlier this week, I was doing some drawings and I was getting really, really frustrated at my lack of skill. And it was like I just couldn't get what I saw in my head onto paper, and I was just not satisfied with my art style because I have something, my art style is a bit in the middle. It's too detailed to be simple, but not detailed enough to be considered complex. So it's too illustrative to be semi-realism, but also it's not very cartoony because I don't like noodle arms and sausage mouths. And I was cleaning my desk and an old sketchbook fell, and I saw a picture of characters that I redesigned, and those were about a year ago, and looking at now, it's already better. So when you look at like the first head versus the 100th head, well, the first head was kind of bad because that was the first drawing I did for the day, but that first page versus the last page, there isn't much of an improvement. But when I look back at like sketchbook 6, because I'm on sketchbook 7 now, when I just turn back to sketchbook 6 to look at August, to reference him so that I can draw him with his wife April, who I designed in this new sketchbook, I could already see a difference, even though I finished that sketchbook only about 2 months ago. It's been a really short time since I finished it, and already I can see a difference. I'm still not satisfied with my work by any means, but I know that putting in the time, eventually I'll be satisfied. I will talk more about my intentional practice when I'm doing the sketchbook tour, because each sketchbook I focus on a few specific things and then throw in the other things as I please. In this sketchbook I didn't focus on color, while in the sketchbook 6 I focused on color. So there's that. I think I've rambled on too long, considering I wasn't even talking about the heads, but I hope you enjoyed looking at my drawings, especially since I'm not a professional artist. I'm just somebody who started it not too long ago and just put in some time and effort. I'll do a more detailed review pretty soon, comparing them, and you'll also see my absolutely awful hands. There's a reason I'm practicing them. So I hope you enjoy the video, and stay tuned for the next one. That one might be interesting. That one will be interesting as well, because I don't really see a lot of self-critiques on YouTube. You see a lot of people critiquing other people, but I know what it is I am looking for, so I will be able to say things that someone else might not notice because I've been staring at these pictures for so long. Anyway, I'll talk to you in another video later.